Welcome to The Needle, your Division I college basketball podcast. I'm Jack Williams, owner and operator of D1CoachCorner.com, your source for college basketball news, rankings, and predictions. On this podcast, we will present to you weekly conversations on D1 college basketball coaches and their teams. Don't forget to go right now on your computer, phone, or tablet and follow us on Twitter. This episode of The Needle is brought to you by D1CoachCorner.com, your source for Division I college basketball coaches.
Winning isn't everything. It's the only thing. Quote from the late, great Vince Lombardi. In this game of college basketball, winning is the only thing that matters. Win now or be out of a job tomorrow. Again, I'm Jack Williams, host of The Needle and owner and operator of D1CoachCorner.com, your source for college basketball news, predictions, and ranking. Thank you for joining us today on our second episode of The Needle. In this episode, we're going to be reviewing week 4 of college basketball and discussing those games that may have moved the needle either north or south on the March selection meter. Now, staying on the topic of the March selection process, the NCAA has announced a change in its evaluation system on November 26, 2018. The new evaluation tool, which is also known as the NET, relies on game results, strength of schedule, game location, scoring margin, net offensive efficiency, defensive efficiency, and the quality of wins and losses to aid in the selection of seeding of teams appearing in the postseason tournament. And so a win on a neutral location won't have as much of an impact on ranking as it will a win on another team's home court. The net will take the place of the RPI system, which has been in existence since 1981. The old system put a lot of weight on strength of schedule and leaves out some of the other factors. Some lower-level teams believe that the heavy emphasis on strength of schedule gave them an unfair advantage to teams from major conferences, and it did. However, there will never be a perfect way of doing this, but we have to go with what works now and what works best. The first net poll, the NCAA had Ohio State ranked at number 1, Virginia at number 2, Texas Tech number 3, Michigan number 4, Gonzaga number 5, Duke 6, Michigan State 7, and so on and so on. I'll tell you what, this system is light years off from the Associated Press because, for one, the Associated Press is developed by a voting system that involves people, and for the other, it is a quantitative spreadsheet that figures out a score. However, I use my own spreadsheet to develop a ranking process, and I'm not the smartest person in the world by far. But even mine somewhat lines up with the Associated Press and the USA Today coaches poll, so I'm still not quite understanding this system. But, moving on, we had some very interesting games played during week 4 of college basketball. Started with the Applecare Invitational Tournament that started on March 26, 2018, and then the Big Ten ACC Challenge. The Applecare Invitational is a tournament that consists of 8 teams from separate conferences. This year's participants were Villanova, Canisius, Oklahoma State, Memphis, the College of Charleston, LSU, UAB, and Florida State. Starting with Villanova, Villanova bounced back in a win over ranked Florida State in the championship game of the Applecare Invitational. The championship game was played on neutral territory in Orlando, Florida, where we say it's neutral territory, but it's still Florida. So that game should count as a home game for Florida State. But anyway, Villanova won by 6 points to move the needle up the polls. Villanova lost 2 games previously so far against Michigan and Furman. Man, I tell you, this Furman team is pretty good this season. We'll talk more on that later. Oklahoma State moves the needle with its win over LSU in the third-place round of the Applecare Invitational on Sunday, November 25th. Mike Boykin and Oklahoma State are exceeding expectations this season. Oklahoma State has 2 good road wins, both on neutral grounds against Memphis and, of course, LSU. Oklahoma State will have back-to-back road games starting on November 30th against Minnesota and then at Tulsa on December 5th. On another note, I noticed that Lipscomb didn't receive one vote in the AP Top 25 voting poll. Don't understand that one. Lipscomb beat SMU, ranked TCU, and Morehead State in their stadiums. This team beat Morehead State by 32 points on their home court. Lipscomb will continue their 5-game road tour with Middle Tennessee State at the Murphy Center in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and on December 1st with Belmont at the Curve Event Center in Nashville, Tennessee. Belmont is going to be a challenge for Lipscomb, who has beaten them already. The ACC Big Ten Challenge started on Monday, November 26th, to begin the 4th week of college basketball. The first 2 games started with Nebraska at Clemson and Minnesota at Boston. Nebraska picked up a good needle-moving win over Clemson on the road on Monday. The Cornhuskers went into Little John Coliseum in Clemson, South Carolina, needing a win to crack the top 25 for the up-and-coming week. Nebraska entered the 4th week of college basketball with 98 votes, just shy of a slot down from Wisconsin of cracking the AP Top 25. How about Texas Southern upsetting ranked Oregon on the road? So far, Texas Southern has 2 very good road wins over major D1 teams. This team defeated Baylor on the road in its first game of the season. You must be very careful playing SWAC teams this season. Grambling, Arkansas Pine Bluff, and Texas Southern are 3 teams that could beat you if taken for granted. Bo's 32 points that game just wasn't enough to hold off Texas Southern. The needle was going down for Oregon, ranked at only 21 in the AP polls for week 4. Don't be surprised to see Oregon out of the top 25 come week 5. The needle ticks downward for Virginia Tech with their loss to Penn State at the Bryce Jordan Center in Pennsylvania. This was Virginia Tech's first real road test. Other games have either been played at home or either on neutral territory. Virginia Tech's next real road test won't come until January 9, 2019 against Georgia Tech. What was wrong with Virginia Tech's Ahmad Hill's confidence in that game? Did anybody else see that? He played nearly the entire game and did not score a bucket. He often looked like he was lost. I watched him from the beginning of the game to the end. His confidence was shot to hell that game. Sadness covered me like a blanket. Did anybody see that episode of King of Hill? What happened? Can anybody answer me that question on my Twitter page on @D1 Coach Corner? No real movement there, though, as far as the needle is concerned. However, Penn State stopped Virginia Tech from moving the needle by protecting their home court. Nevada wins at Loyola Chicago. Loyola Chicago has lost 2 games in Chicago and 1 on neutral ground so far. All 3 games were against very good teams this year. Furman, here we go with this team again, is playing at a very high level this season, and so is Boston College. Now Nevada, no one expected this game to be close. Nevada is a team that is playing at a very high level and has a real shot at getting to the Final Four this year. Louisville's defended their home court in a win against Michigan State on Tuesday, November 27th. This loss sends the needle trending down for Michigan State and up only slightly for Louisville. Louisville lost to Tennessee and Marquette prior to winning over Michigan State. So this loss hurts Michigan State more than it helps Louisville. Expect Michigan State to fall slightly in the ranking on Monday of week 5. There were 2 wins in the Big Ten ACC Challenge that probably won't change anything as far as the needle is concerned. One is Florida State. Florida State defended its home court against Purdue, in which the needle remained steady for both teams. The needle should also remain steady for Michigan for defending its home court against North Carolina. Man, that top 1 through 5 slot of the top 25 is going to be hard to crack because each of those teams currently there, Gonzaga, Kansas, Duke, Virginia, and Nevada, are very strong teams this season. It's obvious that one of these teams are going to have to lose in order to creep up on them in the top 5. It is going to be a fight for the top seed in the tournament come 2019. On Friday, November 30th, 2018, week 4 of college basketball, the Big Ten started its conference competition. Conference play started early due to the agreement of the Big Ten officials to bump up the number of conference games played for the 2018-2019 season to 20 from 18 for the first time in the conference history. It was reported that the Big Ten early start was to accommodate the Madison Square Garden schedule, where the Big Ten would be hosting their tournament in 2019. Now we know the early start would also be a financial plus for the Big Ten network, because for the first time in many years, the Big Ten championship won't be overshadowed by the NCAA selection process. That means more people will be paying attention to the Big Ten tournament. With that said, there were 2 games played on Friday night: Wisconsin at Iowa and Michigan State at Rutgers. Now, Wisconsin moves the needle northbound with its win over Iowa at the Carver Hawkeye Arena. This was Wisconsin's second true road win this season. The other was at Xavier at the Cintas Center in Ohio on November 13, 2018. Another good road win, however, came against Oklahoma on neutral territory on November 22, 2018. Michigan State also moved the needle up slightly with its road win over Rutgers. Michigan State recovered from a road loss to Louisville at the KFC Yum Center in Louisville, Kentucky on November 22, 2018. There were several other games played on Friday, November 30, 2018, but on this show we only discussed the games that could have an impact come Selection Sunday in March. On that note, there were 2 other games played that night that could have possibly moved the needle one way or the other. One was mid-major Radford at Texas, and the other was Mississippi State at Dayton. Radford beat its second major D1 team on the road this season. One was against Notre Dame at the Purcell Pavilion in South Bend, Indiana on November 14, 2018. This time it was a ranked Texas team at the Frank Ewen Center in Austin, Texas. Texas has trouble defending the three-point line. This team ranked 245th in the nation and 7th in the Big 12 in defending the three-point shot. Texas is going to have to get better defensively. This team allows its opponents to score on average 70.2 points per game. Texas should fall out of the top 25 in Week 5 for not defending their home court. Mississippi State finally gets a good road win over mid-major Dayton. This was a good win and a much-needed win for the Bulldogs. Mississippi State was barely hanging in at number 25 of the AP Top 25. I still think that this team hasn't played up to its potential yet, though. When Abdul Adu is 100%, this team is going to be very difficult to beat. Fortunately, Abdul Adu got to play in this game, and his 10 points and 4 rebounds made a huge difference. Mississippi State's next true road game won't come until they face South Carolina in conference competition on January 8, 2019. Now we get to Saturday, December 1st, 2018. More big conference games were played on Saturday. We had Northwestern at Indiana, Purdue at Michigan, and Penn State at Maryland. Again, this is part of the 20-game bump-up agreed by the Big Ten in the earlier part of the year. Michigan, Maryland, and Indiana all defended their court with a win. We all stressed the emphasis on the importance of winning games on the road, but we failed to emphasize the importance of defending the home court. The Air Force Reserve Hoop Hall Miami Invitational was also on Saturday. The Air Force Reserve Hoop Hall Miami Invitational is a one-day quadruple header event which featured the University of Miami versus Yale, Georgia Tech versus St. John's University, North Carolina versus Vanderbilt, and Texas Tech University versus the University of Memphis. This is the 4th year of the Invitational. These games are played on neutral grounds in Miami, so they don't count as true road wins. Starting with Miami versus Yale, Yale moves the needle slightly in their win against Miami. Yale's next true road game is going to be against Duke on the 8th of December. St. John's moves to 7-0 by defeating Georgia Tech. The needle moves slightly for this team as well. North Carolina State moves the needle slightly with this win over Vanderbilt. Still waiting on the Bandits to get that spark, though. Something's still missing there. Well, we'll see as the season goes on. And finally, Texas Tech holds its ground by defeating Memphis. Texas Tech has an easy schedule between now and December 20th when they play Duke at the Madison Square Garden. On other Saturday needle-moving games, Nevada won their second consecutive road game by beating USC on their home court. With that win, Nevada continues to move the needle up towards the top of the top 25. Houston moves the needle up with this win over ranked Oregon. People sleep on Houston this year. In my opinion, Houston is the best team in the American Conference. Houston has three of the best point guards in the nation in Galen Robinson Jr., DeJuan Jarreau, and Corey Davis Jr. Even without DeJuan Jarreau in the lineup, Houston ranks 24th in the nation in assists per game and is first in the nation in the fewest turnovers. Houston is not even at its full capacity yet. DeJuan Jarreau has been out of the lineup due to undisclosed reason, and forward Fabian White Jr. is just returning with limited minutes. In only 16 minutes played, White added 7 points to help Houston defeat Oregon. Speaking of Oregon, the needle continues to spiral downward for this team with back-to-back losses, one at home and one on the road. Oregon may find itself out of the top 25 come Monday, December the 3rd. Now on to Marquette moves the needle slightly by defending their home court against the ranked Kansas State. The needle falls slightly for Kansas State, however, but not by much. This team should remain in the top 25 come Monday. Lipscomb continues its road tour with yet another win. Lipscomb gets its fourth consecutive road win with a win over Middle Tennessee State. Lipscomb beat ranked TCU and SMU on the road. I'm still looking for votes for this team in the top 25. You know, I'm not looking for this team to be at the top of the top 25. I'm just looking for them to receive some votes. That concludes our needle-moving portion of the show, and now on to our Coach on the Rise, Rookie Watch List, and Hot Seat Watch List portion of our show. This portion of the show is brought to you by D1CoachCorner.com, your source for Division I college basketball news, predictions, and rankings. Coach on the Rise. This week, Coach on the Rise goes to Coach Bob Richey of Furman. Furman is off to his best start in school history at 7-0. The Paladins received 72 votes in the AP polls on Monday, March 26. Prior to becoming head coach, Coach Richey served as an assistant coach at Furman. Coach Richey served in that capacity from 2011 until becoming head coach of the team. Furman is a dangerous team to play this year, folks, under Coach Richey. Furman remains undefeated and has beaten both ranked Villanova and Loyola Chicago on the road. Furman's next real test will come on December 12th at LSU on the road. Now for our rookie head coach watch list. On our rookie head coach watch list is Darian Devries. Coach Darian Devries is the new head coach at Drake. Coach Devries took over after the departure of Nico Medved, who moved on to take on the job at Colorado State. Drake is currently 5-1 for the season under Coach Darian Devries. Now on our hot seat watch list, which I hate this part of the show, but it has to be done. But our hot seat watch list goes to Coach Steve Wojo of Marquette. Now that doesn't mean that we're predicting that Coach Wojo is going to be fired by the end of the season. Marquette has a pretty good team this year and was picked to finish second in the Missouri Valley Conference according to the coaches poll. Coach Wojo is in his 5th season with Marquette and hasn't yet gotten past the first round of the NCAA tournament. I'm just saying fans are expecting better from this team this season. Anything short of a Sweet 16 finish may prove to be trouble for Coach Wojo at the end of the season. Now that concludes the show for this week. Join us next week at the same time and same channel for new episodes. We will be happy to take your questions and comments on Twitter for our next episode. Our Twitter handle is at D1 Coach Corner. That is at D1 Coach Corner. See you next week.